All right, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee on the 2nd of January, a Thursday. It's 9:20ish in the morning. Cold but sunny, no rain in sight. Um, Looks like we got to get more firewood. We've been burning it like crazy to stay warm. We have a wood burner. Um, I'm going to talk about the terrorism in the United States today. I'm going to try to give you the benefit of my experiences here living in Israel for many years with terrorism, because it's the same people doing it to you in the United States. And I'm going to explain to you what they'll hit, how they'll hit it, the different approaches, and I'll give you a lot of insights that most people in America wouldn't know. Does the FBI know this? I'm sure they do. Now, they called for an intifada. Right after that, there was a shooting in Queens. I'll go through all the terrorist attacks that happened in very close proximity to each other. And I'll go through where they're likely to hit in terms of cities and targets and things like this. And hopefully, I'll give you some tips. All right. Now, let me. What else are we going to do today? We're going to talk about more about teaching Bible prophecy, the things I haven't covered. And we're going to tie the terrorist attacks to Bible prophecy in Jeremiah 51, which I think is getting to be a very, very good fit. All right. So I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream and it's working. And then I'm going to go put a couple of quick posts up while people are coming in. So I'm going to go into. Before I forget, I want to thank all of you for praying for me over the loss of my dog and good friend Yafa. I feel much better. I basically spent the day yesterday praying in tongues, and I'm much better. Sleep was not very hard last night, and I've come to grips with it. Now, I want to mention something to you that I'm in a unique position to be aware of that you are not, because people write me. And there was a number of people that wrote me that they very recently, in like a handful of days, even less than a handful of days, lost a dog or a cat. I think dogs mostly. And I don't understand this. I don't know, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. But I'm thinking of the second Exodus, ships at Tarshish, and I don't know what to do with this information. Pray the Lord to reveal it to me. And please keep praying for Chief. I don't want to lose him. That would be like getting hit with a steamroller for me right now. But I would recover. God would get me through it. So please, I don't understand this with so many people losing dogs. But you guys were great. I got a lot of letters, emails, I should say, from people, and I really appreciate that. I got devastated. I've recovered to a great extent, but I got devastated. I'm basically reflecting on the good times I had with Yafa, and it's over, and I accept it. And I got to move on. Okay, so we're going to get into the live stream, and I think this could be a beginning of something. I'm rather sure of it. Okay, and we'll get into it. Let me get my posts up. If I talk too much during this, I'll make typos, and I don't want to do that. Now I'll just get my email address up. All right, we're about done. Let me do some praise and we'll get going. But your emails really touched me, guys. Thank you. Okay, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, let's go through a list of these very, very close time proximity terrorist attacks in America, which was probably over 2 to 3 days or maybe 2 days. I'll go through the list with you. And there was a recent one in Queens, New York. There was a shooting at a nightclub and 13 people were shot. Now, that's like just kind of breaking news, and we don't have any solid information yet as to how many people, well, the people that got shot, did they get winged in the arm? Did they get severely ill or shot? Did anybody die? We don't know yet. Having worked in law enforcement as a young guy, I could tell you when you go into a nightclub and start shooting, you're back to the Frank Nitti, Al Capone, and Dutch Schultz, and lunatic asylum type things, and they're usually crowded, and it's not usually, boom, front sight, boom, It's sporadic, wild shooting, so we don't know what happened yet, but it'll come out, I'm sure. Why would they conceal it? Okay, first I want to get some prayer requests out. First one is for SZ, Sam Zebra. SZ, Sam Zebra. Healing, this person is hospitalized with liver cancer. SZ, Sam Zebra, healing, hospitalized with liver cancer, so it's serious. There's another prayer request for somebody named Cheryl. I don't have initials for Cheryl, is in the hospital. I don't know more, so healing for Cheryl that's in the hospital. Oh, I believe it's cancer, also cancer. Cheryl in hospital with cancer. Prayer request for healing. Prayer request for RG, Romeo Girl. RG, Romeo Girl, RG. Pray to get a good tenant for a rental apartment. For RG, looking for a good tenant for a rental apartment. Prayer request. Okay. I think this situation is this person modified a basement in a house to be a rental apartment, which is common. So we had the car ramming in New Orleans. The guy had an ISIS flag, I think, on his truck. So he had some ties to ISIS. He was a homegrown terrorist from America, spent a number of years in the military and the reserves. He did a car ramming, and quite a few people got killed, I think, north of 10, and quite a few, 25 or 30, were injured. It was a serious car ramming attack. Okay, this is done in Israel. I'm going to talk to you about how they operate in a little bit. A man was stabbed this isn't the last day or two. I'm, here in Israel where, we're Thursday morning, so there's time difference and stuff, but stabbed in the neck. So that was a very serious attack on a subway in New York. A man the other day was pushed onto the tracks in front of a train and got run over by the subway train in New York. This goes back perhaps a week. A woman was burned on a subway. And there was a second burning of somebody on a subway also. In a town called Kankakee, Kankakee, Illinois, I believe, a mass shooting, 2 dead and 6 injured. Then in Las Vegas by the Trump Hotel, also called Trump Tower. So the way Trump builds properties is the first 4, 5, or 6 floors. Well, at the bottom you'll have malls and restaurants and stores, and then you'll have a few floors of hotels. Then on top of that you have apartments. So it's a Trump Tower / hotel, if you got the drift, right? A guy came with a cyber truck, which are made by Elon Musk, and caused an explosion in front of the entrance to it. Now, Elon Musk is going to be taking a big, important position with Trump. So they were trying to make it look like the truck exploded, but it wasn't the case. Well, the truck exploded, but there was explosives in the truck. The truck did not malfunction and explode. What's fair is fair. Let's not try to pin something on Elon Musk that he doesn't deserve. The FBI in Virginia just confiscated 150 homemade explosives, truck bomb, pipe bomb type things, which is not normal for ISIS, Al Qaeda, Hezbollah. They don't do pipe bombs. I want you to know that. The FBI said it was the largest capture of explosive devices they ever had. There's now a hostage situation in Las Vegas on a bus. This was near where the Cybertruck exploded. Not a coincidence. Now, the terrorists, as I'll discuss in a few minutes, use buses, and I'll explain how they do buses. The anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, pro-Iran, pro-terrorist Muslims are calling for an intifada. The intifada is a terrorist term that the Muslims use, and it means lots of attacks. It could also mean a shutdown strike. Like in Israel, they'll close the stores, except maybe pharmacies or a grocery store or something like that. But they're not going to be doing that in New York or America. They're going to be doing the attacks. And I think you should expect a large amount of attacks. It may not happen, but usually you're going to get a reaction when they call for an intifada. If they get killed during a proclaimed intifada, then which the mullahs in the mosques will probably endorse quietly in America, probably. They become official martyrs and go to paradise when they're killed and get their 70 virgins. That's the general drift of this, so it can be some unpleasant days ahead. The guy that did the New Orleans ramming of the truck and the guy that did the Cybertruck by the Trump Tower in Las Vegas both used the same app to rent their vehicles. They were both trucks. This is not a coincidence. Now, let's start analyzing what they're doing. New York is an iconic city. So they're doing attacks in New York. They're not specifying Jews or church people, they're generally attacking. Got it? New York has very, very strict gun control, so people are probably not running around with guns on the street very much in New York, in the city. The state's not so hard, the city is. Places that, now, New Orleans is an icon for pagan, religions. Fat Tuesday, the Mardi Gras, the New Year celebrate. So that would attract them to New Orleans, which is not a major iconic city, but it is somewhat a lesser grade iconic city tourist attraction. New Orleans is beautiful. They got streetcars. It's very scenic. It's a very beautiful place, but it's very demonic. Similar to San Francisco, I would guess. All right. What you're going to see within Intifada is what's going to look like lone wolves. But the guy that did the car ramming, they said there was 4 or 5 people that were helping with this car ramming. Now, I'll tell you what I know. They're looking for people that come to them. Usually, it'll go through a mosque that's radically organized, and from there they'll make contact with other people and they'll get to a terrorist group somehow. And they'll say things like, I had enough. I can't take it anymore. We've seen commercials that they would show the Palestinians videos on social media where a young guy is sitting there and he sees an Orthodox Jew walk by and he can't take it anymore and he picks up a knife and stabs the guy. This is who they're looking for. Somebody that's been radicalized and is ready to be a martyr and can't stand whatever it is they want to kill. Trump reiterated that he told Hamas they better get them hostages back soon to Israel. Meaning he told them they're going to have hell to pay if the hostages are not back by January 20th. No coincidence that there was an explosion outside Trump Tower in Las Vegas using an Elon Musk truck. This was not a coincidence. Don't believe it. The fact that both of these truck characters, the Cybertruck in Vegas and the car ramming guy in New Orleans, rented these trucks on the same app, is they've got the people grooming them for this and teaching them how to do it. The guy in New Orleans was wearing body armor. Now, if you see a car ramming coming, the most important thing is to get out of the way. Now, I know Clint Eastwood made a Dirty Harry movie years ago in San Francisco where I think they were bank robbers or something, were trying to get away in a car, and Clint Eastwood goes out into the street and squats, which is not the most efficient way to shoot. But when you squat, you might shake, and it takes time to squat, and you could get killed. Now, when I was first in law enforcement as a deputy sheriff, they taught us to squat. They taught us to, point shoot, which is you take your arm and you keep it parallel to the ground. That eliminates up and down error. Okay? It's not bad, really, but it's hard to learn. And then you got to keep your arm, when you got it parallel to the ground, you got to control your elevation a little bit and point it like you're punching. at the person and squeeze off. And they taught us to squat and to take, being a righty, take the left hand and hold it in front of your heart so the bullet might go through your hand and not hurt your heart as much. And this is more psychological than based on science. Believe me. Now, if the guy's shooting it with a 25 or a 32, yeah, it'd probably do some real good, even a 380. But, if it's, anything powerful, it's not going to work. Okay, so anyway, Clint Eastwood gets out there, and the guy's driving at him with a car trying to ram him, and he's got his 44 Magnum. He goes, boom, 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 and he shoots the guy, and the car swerves and doesn't hit him. This is idiocy. Okay, this guy was prepared for it. He had body armor. So unless you came at him with a heavy rifle or an assault rifle, you would just be hurting him with the body armor, with the traumatic force of the bullet hitting, which wouldn't stop him from operating the car. So you don't want to be in front of the car, even if you're carrying a gun legally, and you start trying to drill the guy, and you do hit him. It's probably not going to change the path of the car, even if you got him in the cranium. Because the car is still going. You got to get out of the way of the thing. When you get out of the way of the thing, hopefully behind a barrier, a heavy barrier, then you could start drilling the guy. But then again, you got to watch yourself in America, because, especially in New York or someplace, because the prosecutors could be sympathizers with the left wing, and they'll say, well, when you got out of the way and the car was going to miss you, your life was no longer in threat. Why did you do it? It's like a burglar comes into your house, holding a 50 caliber machine gun like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and starts spraying 90 rounds through your house, and he doesn't hit you. And then you start popping off at him with your revolver, and he starts running away. Then you run out the front door, and boom, you shoot him in the back and drop him. Well, now they'll take you and charge you for aggravated assault, because the guy was no longer a threat. He wasn't carrying your goods or possessions. He didn't kidnap anybody. He was just running away. So you got to watch these prosecutors. They're anti-gun, and they're crazy. And many of them, left-wing fanatics, become prosecutors to torment people that believe in law and order. Okay, so watch it. The thing with the car ramming is get out of the way. Hiding behind another car is very helpful, but may not be enough. It depends how fast he's moving. The idea when they car ram is they push the pedal to the metal and they try to go as fast as they can, aiming to hit as many people as they can. They'll hit anybody. Okay? It's not all that common to hear of a car ramming terrorist attack where they drive into a store, a restaurant or something like that. Now, if you're on a sidewalk cafe in a restaurant, sitting outside, this is danger. In these days, I would say don't sit outside any restaurants. Okay? I wouldn't do that. So you want to get out of the way. Okay? And that may not be so easy. So the next idea is stay away from areas that could be terrorist attacks. So when you see holidays coming up, in America there's not really any more holidays for a while. If you see holidays coming up, stay away from crowded places. There have been a number of terrorist attacks in Israel where they go into a restaurant and shoot the people up, like they did at a bar last night or a few hours ago. it's still breaking news. So you got to be careful of that too. Okay. Now, I am going to speculate that in America they're going to be hitting iconic cities. They're not going to be hitting communities with 40,000 or 180,000 people. I don't think they're going to go for that. They want big cities because they cast a lot of fear on the people in the big city, and they get nervous, and it makes them want to think, oh, let's attack Israel and kill them, and then the Palestinians and the terrorists will leave us alone. But contrary, they'll throw you in the oven. Remember what they say, first they want to get the big Satan and the little Satan, America and Israel. If you can, guys, pray for me. We were praying for my jaw, and that seemed to get in place more or less. But now occasionally I get this like a fluttering in the ear here, which is probably a result of the jaw not being seated correctly. So it doesn't hurt or anything. It's just a little annoying. It goes away in 2 or 3 seconds. So please pray that the fluttering in my ear goes away. Thank you. All right. So car rammings is a big one with them. These characters are using pickup trucks, which are going to kill more people. This is what the media normally won't tell you. These characters that do this, that are, now some guy that just sitting in his house reading his Quran, and he wakes up one day and says, I had enough, I'm going to go do a car ramming. That type of person is so rare, it's like non-existent. All right, they're affiliated, they're tied in. All right, they give them drugs. Yes, they give them drugs. They don't talk about it much in the media, but that's how they do it. The drug is a combination drug. I don't know much about these modern day drugs because I'm an old guy, but I know from law enforcement many years ago about drugs, but this one is a combination of ecstasy and something else, probably a methamphetamine or a derivative thereof, and it makes them have no fear. They feel, good inside, and it makes them hard to kill. When somebody's on PCP, I think they use that too. It's a cocktail of drugs. There were PCP shootings by police in America in the 70s, and there were instances of a guy attacking a federal building in San Francisco without a shirt on in the winter. San Francisco, you don't walk around without a shirt on in the winter. You don't walk around without a shirt on in the summer. It's not that hot there. And he went in, and he had a gun, I believe, or a knife, and he got shot 6 times with a .357, and they were decent hits. I mean, some shoulders, but .357 is a very lethal gun round, very lethal. And it's extraordinary for this guy to keep fighting. And then after that, they were hitting him with nightsticks. And it lasted quite a while. Now, what happens when people are on stimulant drugs is they don't feel the shock, the hydrostatic shock of the bullet. It doesn't affect them. They work through it. But the bullet damages their organs, and it can't break their bones. And that, you basically got to wait for them to bleed out internally and externally, and then they don't get enough oxygen to the brain, and they collapse, they pass out. And they generally are going to die, If you shoot somebody 6 times with a .357 in the waiting room of an emergency room of a big hospital, there's a high probability they're never going to make it, But these guys can go 30, 45, 60 seconds. I've seen pictures of the kid video got shot with a 223, a 5.56, and an M16 round, and he went down, and he was down a few seconds, and then he was trying to get up, but he couldn't get up. If you get hit good enough with an M16 to go down, getting up is rather uncommon. Quite uncommon. He didn't get up, he was trying to. Most of the time you'd be in shock and confusion and you wouldn't have your focus. This kid was focused on, let me continue the fight. He couldn't get anywhere, and then he was shot a second time. And that was it. He was a goner. And the soldier got in trouble for it because he was shot laying on the ground. And people were telling him, he's got a bomb belt, he's got a bomb belt. And the fear was he pressed the detonator, so the soldier shot him a second time, and then there was no bomb belt. And the idiots that prosecuted him, and he went to jail for a time. It was quite stupid. That's like going to the drag strip on Friday or Saturday night when they're racing and having the cops stand there with a radar gun giving them speeding tickets. It's ridiculous. I guess the moral of that story is shoot double taps, boom, boom, shoot them twice. All right, anyway, they're very hard to stop and they're very hard to kill. I saw videos of a guy doing a car ramming in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, and he had a smallish car, not like a Fiat 500, bigger than that, but not a big car. And he did some car ramming on the sidewalk, and people were shooting at him. He got out of the car, people were shooting at him, and he took a hatchet out of the car and was hitting people in the head. And eventually enough of good Samaritan citizens drilled him with enough rounds to put him down. In Israel, they predominantly use a 9mm, and they frequently will not use the hollow point. And that the 9mm, when you get it in a good configuration and a high velocity, at least 1,200 feet per second, 115 grain with a hollow point, a good ammo round from a good company, you're probably going to get a pretty good level of lethality. But when you just do the standard 9mm, 115 grain full metal jacket, it's not a lethal round in my book. And I think many people would agree with me. You should get the plus P minimally with a hollow point. If you feel better about the 124 grain, so be it. But you lose velocity, but you pick up more mass. So deeper penetration is more possible. The plus P plus is more lethal yet, but it enhances recoil, and training with it, and you have to train with it, is expensive, and it's could damage your gun because it's a little too abrupt. So, and then you're going to get a lot of muzzle flip and you'll get flash, and your best bet is probably the plus P as a compromise. But the guns are not effective against these car rammers unless you had an assault rifle. If you were walking around the street and you had yourself, an AR-15, and you went boom, 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 and you started pumping 5 or 6 rounds, you're going to drop the guy, but the car is still going to continue on its path. There's no such thing as shooting the engine of the car that's going to stop the forward momentum of the car. So you've got to get out of the way. Running in a building is good. Going up steps is excellent, because the car's not going up steps. So if you see something that's got like at least 5 or 6 steps, then you run up the steps, you're probably out of harm's way. Okay? It's a hard thing. It goes fast, and often it comes out of nowhere. You don't see it until it's too late. And it causes people to panic, and they start banging into each other and falling down. And these attacks can be quite lethal. So you got to be careful. Sidewalk cafes, if they're crowded, is a very dangerous thing, because he could just jump the curb and ram lots of people real quick and easy. And then, because the people will be so unprepared, he'll probably get out of the car and start shooting people or stabbing them or something until he gets taken out. Okay? They do use women. Women are sometimes unexpected. They'll even use knives. Okay? They don't train these people in knife fighting. That is pretty stupid. They don't do that. They just try to stick the knife repeatedly into the torso or the neck or something like that. They kill people with these knives. Okay? If you can lawfully carry a gun and you see it coming, you can turn around and pop them with the gun, and that'll work quite well. But don't just shoot them once. Put 3-4 rounds in them until they lay on the ground or they fall over, and that's probably going to take 2 or more. And then stop shooting. Fall back. Put distance between you and you, and wait for the cops. Make sure when you wait for the cops that the idiot might have accomplices in the crowd. You got to be careful. And they may try to steal his knife or gun when he's laying on the floor, and then start trying to convince the prosecutor that he was unarmed. But there may or may not be videos of the incident, so watch out for all of this. Malls can be dangerous, but I haven't really seen them use that as a method of attack. Have seen restaurants. A restaurant could have 50, 60 people, and there's no security in the restaurant, okay, to speak of. Where malls have all kinds of security, so they're not too comfortable about malls, but that doesn't mean they'll keep doing it. Now, Muslims are taught that a dog is a bad animal, okay? And they normally do not have dogs as pets. Muhammad taught them if they've got to manage a flock of sheep or goats, they could have a dog to help manage the herd and drive off predators, but keeping them in a house as a pet they don't like. So they're afraid of dogs. They don't know much about a dog, and they get scared of them. We have them come to our house here making deliveries that are Muslim, and we got to put the dogs, lock them up in a room or put them in their kennel because they get nervous. Even if they see the dog in the kennel, they get nervous over that. So a dog is a great deterrent, okay? If you had yourself a German Shepherd, even a Golden Retriever, something like an 80-pound dog, they're not going to run up on you with a gun or a knife because they're afraid the dog's going to attack them. They're not usually highly knowledgeable about, shooting the dog. They just stay away, okay? They don't want any part of dogs. This is something you got to understand. They don't want it. Does the IDF use dogs against them? Oh, extensively. We use Belgian Shepherds, which come in at about 80 pounds. They're very intelligent, they're tough, and you could train them to do many things. Yes, they could fight pretty good, but they could also do other things. If you want to take down a person with a dog, you need about 80 pounds. So when the dog hits, the person's going down. Once the person goes down, the dog's on all fours, he can go down. it's very bad for the person. Okay, very bad, because the dog's gonna, depending on the dog and how the dog perceives the threat, he may maul the arms. Probably gonna switch from legs to arms, although he might stay on the leg. But they could easily switch to the neck and the face, and that's going to really be damaging, kill the person, in other words. So it just depends on what kind of dog you got and so forth. Okay. There's all kinds of dogs, but you want to have a dog that's nice and friendly with the family and visitors. You don't want to get a real killer dog, because that becomes a problem. How do you have friends and neighbors and relatives come to the house? I had dogs like that. I bred them once, Neapolitan Mastiffs. I loved them. They were great, but they are also only accepting of the family. That's it. There is nobody but the family. That's too much, okay? Unless you have very unusual circumstances. I sold one to a guy that was a private detective that had to go in bad neighborhoods and film people doing insurance fraud, like saying they were injured when they weren't. He wanted one of these to take with him because he didn't want to get carjacked and stuff like that. And you're looking at a 125-pound male dog of solid muscle with jaw pressure surpassing crocodiles and alligators. You could shoot these dogs and they're still going to kill you. Eventually the dog, if you got a good hit, would die, but they're still going to get you. These things are horrific, okay? When my dog would threaten somebody, I was walking him once down the street and there was a Hells Angels guy in his colors walking in front of us, and the guy nicely stopped, and they like pit bulls. And he said, "Look, I'm really nervous with your dog. Would you mind? I'll just stand here on the side and you go ahead with your dog." And I said, "Sure." Because my dog was sensing fear from the guy, and that puts him on alert because he's thinking the guy's probably getting ready to attack us. So he's thinking, "Oh, he's getting ready to attack us. I better kill him." I saw him once size up a horse. I know if I didn't stop him, he was going to go after the horse. There were two Rottweilers in the back of a pickup truck once, and I was crossing the street, and the Rottweilers and him got into it, and he was going to charge the two Rottweilers in the pickup truck. He didn't care. I mean, he'd go after anybody. But the chances are he'd win too if he got into a fight with a real classic pit bull, not one of these over-modified steroid crackpot things that weigh 100 pounds. If he got into a real pit bull, like a 40, 50, maybe max 60-pound pit bull, he'd have about 20 minutes to kill the pit bull, and then he'd run out of steam and the pit bull would kill him. But the chances of a, let's say, circa 50-pound dog surviving an encounter with a Neapolitan Mastiff and being able to be alive after 20 minutes is pretty minimal. Their jaw pressure is so severe. And their teeth, I've compared their teeth to, they're like a mountain lion, a 125-pound mountain lion. They're almost that big, not quite, but they're close. But this is if you live alone. Like I sold one to a woman that had very bad health. She lived in a bad neighborhood and she was by herself. So we sold her a male, and she was so happy with the dog. She called me back to tell me how happy she was, And I had another one that was married to, I think he was a drug dealer that stopped dealing drugs, and he owned something like 12 houses. How did he get all these houses? I don't know, And he had a very sweet wife, and they would go around and collect the rent, and she took one of our females she bought. I ran a few litters with these dogs, It's like, hey, you have a litter, you can go buy a new used car. You know, they would sell for $600 to $1,000 a puppy. Now they're much more. But she would collect rent in these bad neighborhoods, and she took the female, and the female wasn't even full grown. It was about 6 months, I think. And she said that there was, loud voices from the person. And she said the dog, which was still a puppy, was scared. She put the tail between the legs, but she stood in between the woman yelling and her owner, which is the way a dog does it when it wants to protect. So, and that was the 6 months. If the dog was a year old, she probably would have ripped the woman's face off if she could get it. So those are, extremes. But if you guys had a golden, I tell people, you want to defend your house, you got kids, you got a family, get 2 or even 3 golden retrievers. They're fantastic with kids, with babies, with the family. They'll tolerate a cat in the house or a bird. And they're very smart, and they want to comply. And if you got one of them, he might just put a show on if somebody was getting aggressive and try to deter him. Ultimately, he would probably fight. But if you have 2 of them, they go, because they know they're going to probably win. If you get 3, even more so. And they'll just go. And you don't have all the downside. And I mean, you're not fighting mountain lions and grizzly bears coming into your house and all this stuff, Then when they come to your house, or bothers you when you're out in the street, they're going to take care of business. And nobody's going to want to have a part of them, because they're going to put on a show and they will bite. And when they bite, they're going to shake their head, and it's going to be traumatic. And, so the Muslims don't like dogs. A dog is not going to make them into a martyr, most likely. Yeah, Neapolitan Mastiff will attack their head, by the way. But, most dogs won't. It's going to be arms and legs and buttocks and stuff like that. And it's going to be painful. And they're not getting the 70 virgins, and they're getting busted up. They don't like that. And it'll stop them from attacking. They don't want it. Buses. They can go into buses and subways. Israel doesn't really have subways. We have streetcars. We don't have any subways. They can go into, and our security is very high here, but in America it's non-existent. They can go in a bus, and listen carefully, with satchel charges. Remember, they got 150 pipe bombs, the FBI did, yesterday? Have a backpack or, anything. You have a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket and sit there with the bucket and eat chicken on a bus. Nobody's going to say anything to you. Well, people are going to come over and say, that's disgusting, don't eat on the bus. Yeah, I'll kill you. That doesn't go on. So in the bucket is a bomb. So then the guy, puts his hand in the bucket, turns the bomb detonator thing on with a timer, puts the bucket down on the floor, walks off the bus, boom. The percussive force of explosions in a bus is horrific because it's all enclosed. And people die that are close to the explosion, and people that are further away normally won't die, but they got bad injuries. Another thing they'll do is go to a bus stop that's crowded. And they'll have something that looks like a purse or a shopping bag, and it's got a nice 20, 30-pound explosive in it with BBs and nuts and washers and stuff that'll make shrapnel. And they sit down like they're waiting for the bus, and as the bus comes and the people are gathering to go in the bus, they'll push the detonator and walk away. Or they try to leave the package there and use a foam detonator at 100 feet where they're not going to get hurt. Now, Israelis are trained for stray packages. The bus drivers, the police, the people, all the people. And if you see somebody leave a package unattended, they'll distance themselves from that package pronto donto and then phone it in. And we have robots that come. This happens on the street. The robot will approach the package. It has cameras. And they'll look at it and they'll try to figure out what it is. And they might open the package, or the robots have a 12-gauge shotgun built into them. Yeah. And they'll just have the shotgun, boom, and they'll shoot the package, and that shreds it. And probably deactivates it. If it does go off, well, you lose a robot. And, you know, you're not going to go into mourning and cry for the robot. Oh, Robbie, the robot's dead. You know, the robot, you get another robot. Okay, it's a machine, like breaking a toaster, you know. So, but America doesn't do this, and the people don't know. Okay? So they can attack on subways. How? Well, I spent so many hours of my life riding on the subways growing up in the Bronx. All they do is they hold their shopping bag with the explosive, stand by the door of the train. They have two doors that opens. They have a conductor. The doors open, and he's standing in the opening, and he waits till the conductor starts closing the doors. Then he jumps out, leaving the package in. The doors close. The conductor doesn't know what's going on at all. The train starts moving, and he punches the detonator in his phone or whatever. As soon as this train pulls down the station, he blows it up. And it has the same percussive force like a bus. This is the type of thing they like to do. I have no familiarity, or do I know anything about them hitting cruise ships, except many, many years ago they did a cruise ship. I believe that was departing or terminating in Israel, and they did a hostage thing on that. The security on the cruise ships today is pretty good. It's not like the airports, but pretty good. So I'm not thinking they're going to hit a cruise ship. It would be difficult to sink a cruise ship. They'd have to have like at least a minimum of 1,000 pounds of explosives, and even that's not going to sink the cruise ship because they're compartmentalized. But so I don't think the cruise ship is the greatest target for them. I don't think they're going to go for it. Las Vegas casinos would be something they would go for. Notice they're hitting in Las Vegas. That's an abomination to the Islamist, terrorists, radicalized. And it is an abomination. So they might be focusing on Vegas, but the casinos have pretty good security, and the police are pretty good over there. They got the city PD and the sheriff, or I think it's Clark County or something. They're pretty competent, and they invest money in training these guys. But it's still, you've got mobs of people on the street. Car shootings is another thing they do, but not that often, but they do it. They'll do drive-bys. Stabbing, you got to be careful. They like to do stabbings, but in America it's so easy to get a gun. Why do stabbing? We haven't yet seen them hit synagogues and churches. That could change. I would suggest, while this is probably beginning, stay away from synagogues and churches and places where there's pagan feasts. Remember when they hit Israel, October 7th, there was a pagan fest going on with music and all of that. So they hit it. They understand these things are abominations. And they hit it. So you probably don't want to go anywhere near these things anyway. But stay away. I am confused about California because it has tight gun control laws, but they're so pro-Palestinian, I don't know if they'll want to hit California. I can't tell you one way or the other. I really don't know. Sniping is something they rarely do. They could do it in America because they could get a sniper rifle easily. It's just a hunting rifle, really, is all you need with a scope. But I'm not. It's not common. They do pull people out of cars. They call it. What do they call it in Israel? They don't call it carjacking. They call it a lynching. It's incorrect English. What they do is they attack the car if the person's stuck in traffic, and they drag them out and then they'll beat them to death. They throw rocks at cars. I don't think you're going to see the carjacking very much in America, nor throwing rocks at cars. I don't know why. They got better weapons there. So you got to watch yourself now. I'm going to go through the scripture with you that where I think we're at. Now I can't give you a written guarantee that this is it, but it sure looks like it because there was so many terrorist attacks in close proximity, timing wise, and now they're calling for an intifada. Breaking into houses is not something they like to do. Now I don't think you'll see that. When the sleeper agents in mass go to work, you will. But right now, I don't think you're going to see that. In Israel, they like to attack the police and the military. I don't know if they'll do that in America. We're not seeing it. Pepper spray could help you if somebody is coming at you with a knife. It might do you some good. If they're coming with a gun, it probably won't. Although you might disable the guy's vision and get out of there. It's worth a try if that's all you have. Flashlight, if you get a very powerful flashlight, at least 2,000 lumen, forget candle power, 2,000 or more lumen at night, and you shine it in their eyes, they're going to pretty much have to turn their head away from you or cover their eyes so they can't shoot effectively. You just got to remember to keep moving. You got to get a good brand because they sell a lot of garbage where they lie about the lumens. Olight, O-L-I-G-H-T. Olight is a good cheap Chinese one. You can get them easily and cheaply with 3,000 lumens. Now, if you want to stop somebody's vision at night, you got to get up around 10,000 lumens. And there are flashlights like that. They're usually about this long, they're about that thick, and the head could be like this. So they're not highly concealable, but there's one like that that has 13,000 lumens. If you shine that to somebody's eyes in the daytime, their vision will be seriously affected in the negative. You can use pepper spray and flashlight, okay? You could carry a cane, but I think you got to check jurisdictions. In America, some might require a doctor's note. A cane could be useful against a knife, but not that significant at all against the gun. Car ramming, there's really nothing there's no point in going on the offensive. Initially, you got to take cover. When you take cover, and you're behind a brick wall, or you turn the corner in a heavy building, and then you could start plinking at him with your gun if you want, but be careful you don't get in trouble with the prosecutor, because now your life's not in danger, but other people's lives are in danger, so you're trying to help them, but you got to watch yourself with that. But you don't play Dirty Harry and get in front of the car and shoot the driver and expect the car's not going to hit you. That is stupid Hollywood, okay? It's not going to work. Now, if somebody were following you at 70 miles an hour on an interstate and you turned around and you were able to shoot at him with a revolver or something like that and hit the driver, the chances of the car following you going off the road or flipping or something like that would be very high. But it's going to take time. The car may travel 200-300 feet before it happens. See what I'm saying? The car ramming is a nightmare. So when you go places, think about a car ramming. If you're in a big urban city and you're walking down a sidewalk with tons of people and the sidewalk's 15 or 25 or 30 feet wide, they could just turn the car up on the curb and start driving down the sidewalk, mowing people down. You'd be surprised how many they could hit, especially with a pickup truck. They could even use a bigger truck, like a 26-foot truck or something like that, So you got to ask yourself those questions. If there's cars parked by the sidewalk, well, then you don't have that much of a threat, because how does he get on the sidewalk? Not so easy. Watch yourself in restaurants, especially if they're ground level. If the restaurant is not on ground level, like you got to go up to the second or third floor or something like that, it's got a much lower risk of getting shot up. Sidewalk cafes are very fatal. You got to watch that. It is what it is, and the scripture is Jeremiah 51:46. We'll digest it. Whoops, wrong. But take it seriously, because they're on a roll, and now they're calling for an Intifada, which is going to keep their roll going. It could be for a month or longer. It's not a one-day thing. Jeremiah 51:46, and lest your heart faint and you fear, for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall both come they add the word 1 year, shall come, and then it says year, and after that year shall come a rumor, and violence. You've had rumors in America about being attacked and everything and all for a long time, and violence in the land. And that's talking to America, the daughter of Babylon, and the word for violence is, you could take it as cruelty, violence. And then it says ruler against ruler. Well, that could mean one part of the government against another, or it could mean rulers from other country against rulers from other countries. In this instance, with the context, I think it means some type of rulers inside America fighting another, so it's like a civil war. So the violence in the land could be this. And then we read, for fear of the sword, the agricultural workers in America go back to the country they're from. Also in Jeremiah 50 and 51. And that could be this violence with the terrorism. Does it have to be? No. Do I think it looks likely because of all the other events in the world? Yeah. I can't say it's 100%, but it looks like it to me. Okay? It looks like it. I mean, it could blow over and it's over with and nothing happens for a while, but I don't think so. Not them calling for an intifada. An intifada means they're going to get respondents, believe me. Let me go through the live stream and see if we got rid of, if I got anything I got to get rid of here. Yeah, it was around New Year's Day, guys, but they called for an intifada. They got it on a roll. I've watched them for many years, guys. This is very, very dangerous. It's a bookcase behind me made out of steel shelving. What's going on, Chief? I'm not reminiscing about my time in Gaza. I'm telling you what goes on in Israel because you've got the same people in America, sleeper agents. Trump himself said up to 30 million. 60 to 70% of them are single males of military age. Wake up. Or not. It's up to you. Kurds versus Golani. We're not fighting the Kurds. We're friendly with the Kurds. People call me senile, yeah. The attacks didn't happen. I'm making it up. I'm senile. I'm delusional. Yeah. See, there's a tremendous amount of people that will always fail to recognize the truth. And that's what it is. How many people in America would believe America's the daughter of Babylon? Maybe 1%? Maybe. Maybe a tenth of 1%. They're not going to wake up. All right. Let's go through some scriptures. So be careful when you go out and think and be observant and be aware of your surroundings. And if you think there's anything like a car ramming coming, run. If you think there's anything like some sort of a bomb, being placed in an area or a bus or subway or something, get the heck out of there, quick. The Washington Monument, now listen to this, the Washington Monument, the Capitol Building, and the Empire State Building in New York were all struck by lightning in the same night. Does that mean anything? Well, it's hard to sit there and shovel that under the rug and make it the albino elephant in the room, because it certainly would make me ponder that it may mean something. It's pretty coincidental. So there's some organization behind these terrorists. Both of the car ramming guys use the same app. They said the first one in New Orleans had 4 or 5 people helping them. There's more to this. They're being played by the terrorist infrastructure to lay their life down, but they're teaching them the ins and outs of how to do it and making sure they stay motivated to do it. We're still fighting in Gaza in the month of December. The month of December only, in Gaza only, Israel conducted 1,400 airstrikes. 1,400 airstrikes in the month of December 2024 in Gaza only. So we're still fighting. So we don't have the atmosphere yet where Elijah's going to come with the temple and train the Levites. Just about the ships of Tarshish, which are more likely than any other kind of ship to be the cruise ships. Mexico legislature passed a law or a bill, whatever they call it down there, that all the cruise ships visiting Mexico would be paying an additional $42 per head. Now, I used to take a lot of cruises when I was in the world many years ago. I haven't taken a cruise in probably 20 years, roughly. The stops in Mexico are Meridia, which is like an island, Cozumel. Those are the ships that leave from Florida mostly, or New Orleans. And there's other ships that leave from Los Angeles and San Diego that go to Mexico, and they'll stop, I think, in Cabo or other places. So a large, not a super duper huge cruise ship, but just a general large one is going to carry about 3,500 people, okay, plus crew, all right? Let's reduce it to 3,000, okay? Just to play with it, right? And there's other taxes too. So let's just add this up. You got 3,000 people on the cruise ship, and then you got it times, it's about $50 when you get into the other $5 tax and stuff. So we'll say $50. That's $150,000 in a day. The ship usually pulls into Mexico at some place like, it could be 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. It could be 8 or 9 o'clock. Usually it's about 7, 8 o'clock it pulls in. So they'll take 10 ships in a day easy. They could take more. So they're getting $1.5 million in a day in Cozumel. Meridia could take maybe almost the same amount of ships. Now, if you're a family of 4, which is not unusual for a cruise, and you stop, the boat stops in Cozumel or Meridia, you're going to have an additional $200 in your cruise fare that the cruise is going to pass on to you, the cruise ship. They're not going to absorb it. So your cruise fare is going to go up $200 just for an 8 or 9 hour stop. And people are not going to want that. So they're talking about deviating into other agendas, avoiding Mexico. Now, Cozumel is a nice island. It's rather safe without incidents. A lot of people like to go to the drugstores and buy things you can't buy in America. But they're not going to sell you morphine or anything like that. But they probably sell you some medicines. And then people put them in a vitamin bottle and try to smuggle them in. And every now and then somebody gets caught, but it's rare. You know, they buy steroids, they buy different things. So what goes on, you know, with this? Well, it's going to be more friction with the cruise ships and Mexico. And, you know, this Cozumel and Meridia, when you get there, what do you see? You can walk in Cozumel for miles, like probably 3 miles, 2 miles, right on the coastline, where on the left-hand side, you've got, or one side, you got the beach. And it's a nice beach, and they're going to charge you probably $20 a head to go on the beach. See, they're pigs, they're greedy. Then you've got restaurants where they practice debauchery. Barmaids pour liquor down the throats of the people, and you know, and people eat Mexican food and drink, and then you've got shopping, and they're very dishonest over there about the shopping. They misrepresent products and lie. And that's about all they got over there. There's some people go out on from the cruise. They get on a catamaran. They buy a ticket to get on a catamaran. That's probably a 50 to 70-foot catamaran, and they take a good amount of people, and they just sail around, and they give the people unlimited liquor. And a lot of people that go on cruises enjoy getting inebriated every day. Now, cruise ships have been selling, what do they call it? A liquor package. And it's expensive as all get up. On a 1-week cruise for 2 people, they might drop, $12,000 to $2,000 on the liquor package. there are packages where you can get unlimited drinks of alcohol. So you can't get, a fine scotch or bourbon or anything like that. You're going to get common liquor. But they don't care how much you want. So they're now stopping that because too many people would go there and get into fights. Carnival had a lot of problems with people taking these packages and having fights on the boat. So they're downgrading it, but you got to listen to this. They're going to charge you a lot of money every day, but they're only going to let you have 15 drinks a day. So that means you could have 15 shots of scotch in a day. How silly that is. That's a ton. Now, some people don't do that. Some people buy the drink package where they get, 3 or 4 shots a day and that type of thing. Yeah, so, things are, I keep an eye on the ships of Tarshish to see what's going on. If you get, 3 or 4 cruise lines say we're diverting away from Mexico because of the tax, the Mexicans could likely go back to the tax, take it away or reduce it. They won't take it away, they'll reduce it. They'll try going from that extra $42 to extra $7 or something like that, Now they're not going to tax only the people that walk off the boat. They don't sit there with a counter. Once the boat docks in Mexico, you're considered in Mexico. And the tax applies. So they go on the boat and they look at the count of how many passengers there are, and that's the tariff the boat has to pay. The Caribbean islands usually have a tax, but it's, it may be, $3 or $5. It's pretty low. And they say that's to cover the cost of maintaining the pier and the port, and it probably is. And they want the people to come on board and pay to go to a private beach and buy stuff in the gift shops and go to the bars and the restaurants and things like that. We'll see what happens, But the stops that I've been in Mexico, which is predominantly Merida and Cozumel, there's nothing to see. They have, you could get, what do they call that? Parasailing. You can contract with some guy in Mexico who has no insurance, and he'll tow you behind his boat, and then you go up on a parasail 100 or 200 feet in the air and hope you come back alive, and he's got no insurance. Or they'll take you out for fishing, or they'll take you out for snorkeling or diving with tanks. That's about it. I mean, there's nothing going on in Cozumel or Merida that the cruise ships really need. There's just nothing there. They'll take boots and shoes in Mexico. And when you look at the bottom of the shoe, you see a picture of an alligator embossed into the sole of the shoe in the arch. And the shoe or the boot is designed to look like an alligator, but it's really calf leather. So they'll charge you triple the price of a calf leather boot, making you think it's an alligator, and the stamp on the alligator makes you think it's alligator, but what it says in the words in Spanish, which a lot of people don't know how to read, is that this is, it says basically it's calf leather made to look like alligator. That's how they are. So if you buy an expensive bottle of liquor there, when you go back on the boat, you have to turn it into the boat, and they give it to you the night before you get off the boat. So if you were going to buy an expensive bottle of scotch from them for $200 or more, how the heck do you know they didn't just pour garbage scotch into a bottle that has the labels and made it to look like a good bottle of scotch? Now, you have to have some additional information for this. If you go back to America and you want to bring a bottle of scotch in, they let you have a certain amount duty free. I think 1 liter or 2 liters or something like that. Per person. I don't believe they base the alcohol tax free based on what you paid for it. So I believe if you bought a $5,000 bottle of scotch, you just declare, I got a liter bottle of scotch here, and it goes through. But if the bottle is opened, you can't bring it in. It has to be factory sealed. So who's going to buy the expensive scotch in Mexico and not sample it until they get back to America? And then what are they going to do about it? It's just rock gut scotch. Do they do this? I don't know. Do I think they're capable of it? Yeah. Do I think it's been done? Yeah. You know, they're that bad. I understand they sell counterfeit Cuban cigars. They're terrible people too. They'll just rip everybody off for anything. When I would get off the boat, with my wife and me, Rivka would get off, we would bring water from the boat, and we would walk around Cozumel or the Cayman Islands or Meridia or wherever we happened to be. Of course, it was very, very pleasant, you know. And we would look in the stores to buy different things, gifts. You could buy jewelry at rather low prices. Clothing is not that desirable, and you know, they have sunglasses, hats, t-shirts, knickknacks, you know, there's all kinds of stuff you could buy. And we'd walk around. We would never eat or drink anything there. Not a drop. Not a drop. And then we would go, when the water was running out, we'd go back to the boat. Usually we'd leave after breakfast, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And we would come back before 2 o'clock so we could still catch the buffet lunch on the cruise ship, because we would not eat a thing there. And then people you'd see in the cruise ships, they'd go there and they'd be drinking tequilas and eating the chips and buying food. And then the next day you'd find out that they had a epidemic on the ship, that people were getting diarrhea and vomiting. Well, where the heck did that come from? From eating the garbage in Mexico. Or you would get it if you went to Jamaica. The only place I would consider eating the food would be U.S. Virgin Islands, which is America, British Virgin Islands, which is Great Britain, or Cayman Islands, which is Great Britain, or Puerto Rico is probably, I don't even know, I never ate in Puerto Rico. I've been in Puerto Rico on a cruise once, and I don't believe I ate a thing there. And where else? That's about it. These Caribbean islands and Mexican island, I wouldn't go near the food or the water. How do you know what kind of water they're giving you? They could take a bottle of water and write Evian on it, or Perrier, and they made it in some basement out of recycled toilet water. What do you don't know. These people will do anything to rip you off and scam you. And that's the way it is from Mexico to Argentina. Argentina and Chile are much less that way. I have eaten food in Chile and Argentina with great success. But these other countries down there, man, I wouldn't do them. You don't want to go there. Unless you think it's funny to get Montezuma revenge. I had it twice. both times. Once in Mexico, visiting family members that are Jews that live there. And they insisted I come to their house, and I came to the house, and they washed the salad off in the sink, and boom, I got sick. And the guy was a physician, and he owned his own medical building with a pharmacy, so it felt like all of a sudden somebody pulled a board out from the bottom, your escape hatch, so to speak, right? And everything just dumped out. So I came back from the bathroom, I told him what happened, so he went into the pharmacy and he gave me a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, and he gave me this I can't remember the name. It was an anti-diarrhea medicine that they since changed, and it doesn't work very well, but it used to have the ingredient. If you go to the Orient, they have much better anti-diarrhea medicines where they have opium in them, and that really shuts it down. Pepto-Bismol does work. It has a property of killing bacteria or maybe viruses too in your stomach, but it does work. But I would say gulp it out of the bottle. So the next day I was still in Mexico, and I wouldn't eat or drink anything. I brushed my teeth with 7-Up out of a can that I freshly opened. And when I went in the shower, I was, I didn't quite tape my mouth shut, but I almost did. And I was staying in a 5-star hotel in Mexico City. The hotel didn't get me sick. His house did. And then I got on the plane. So I didn't eat for 24 hours. I was guzzling Pepto-Bismol. I was quite empty. I never threw up, but I was quite empty. And then I had to the stewardess, I said, hey, is the soda in the water on this plane from Mexico or America? And she looked at me and she kind of knew. And she says, no, it's from America. So then I started drinking again. I wouldn't drink anything. Another time I was in San Francisco. I was in the Mission District. I went into a grocery store and they were selling food from Mexico. Stupid me buys a nice, interesting looking soda with some interesting flavor that was bottled in Mexico. Boom, Montezuma's Revenge. That one was really hard. I was taking Lamodal, that was the drug. So I got a prescription for some Lamodal and it helped. But then I saw a chiropractor and he told me, no, is once you stop taking the Lamodal, it's going to come back. He says, listen, the only way to stop it is not to eat for 3 days. You could drink water, plain water. And that doesn't feed the infection in it, it dies and you get better. So I did it for 30 hours, not 36. And I went to a restaurant in San Francisco, I think it was a Saturday morning for a brunch. I had some Eggs Benedict, and right after I ate, boom, I had to go to the bathroom, it was back. So then I had to start fasting all over again. And it works. Usually if you go about 3 days, you get rid of it. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned with Mexico and the cruise ships, you don't need them. The Caribbean is better. The water is more beautiful. The beaches are better. You don't need to. Why go to Mexico? I mean, but the people that like to go there and get drunk and have a girl pour tequila right down your throat like an idiot and eat the lousy food there, well, they might think if they fill their stomach with enough tequila or scotch or bourbon or whatever they drink, that it might stop them from getting Montezuma's Revenge. And, maybe they're right. If you were going to have 6 or 8 shots of alcohol in your stomach, it might kill the germs. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor, but you think about it. All right, let's go look at the live stream and see what kind of garbage I got to throw out, and then we'll proceed. No, we got rid of them. They just come in and post nasty and go away, and they keep bouncing around from chat to chat. That's all they do. They're children, I think, for the most part. All right. Um, so we covered the violence in the land, and we'll have to see if that proves to be it or maybe not. Let's go to Deuteronomy 18. We'll start in verse 1. The priests, now that word is Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron. The Levites, see, that's from Levi. All the priests or all the Kohanim are also Levites, but not all Levites are Kohanim. The priests and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of Jehovah made by fire and his inheritance. So in other words, they live near the temple, and they probably have a little garden. They could put, like, daisies or roses or whatever they want up there, or, and they don't work the land. They don't raise agricultural animals, and they don't grow crops, because they eat off the offerings. Therefore shall they have no inheritance among their brethren. Jehovah is their inheritance, as he hath said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep, and they shall give unto the Kohanim, the priests, the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the maw. The first fruit also of thy corn, of thy wine, of thy oil, that would predominantly be olive oil, or all olive oil, I expect, and the first of the fleece of thy sheep shall thou give him. See, they do the spiritual things in the temple, and they do other things for the people, and they don't work. They work for the Lord, and the people support them in this way. There's also a temple tax when there's a temple. That give them some money, probably to buy a coat or sandals or a hat or gloves or whatever they need. Furniture. For Jehovah Elohim hath chosen him out of all thy tribes to stand to minister in the name of Jehovah, him and his sons forever. Okay, it says forever. And the words there are kol yom. Kol means all, yom means day. For all the days. Has this been done away with? No. Is it basically suspended because there's no temple? You could definitely say that for sure. And if a Levite come from any of thy gates out of all Israel, where he sojourneth, and come with all the desire of his mind unto the place which Jehovah shall chose. This is when they had the mobile tabernacle. So it would move from place to place. The glory of God of Israel would show them where to go. They would follow him. Then he shall minister in the name of Jehovah Elohim, as all his brethren, the Levites, do, which stand there before Jehovah. They shall have like portions to eat, besides that which cometh of the sale of his patrimony, of his inheritance from the Father. When thou art come into the land which Jehovah Elohim giveth thee, so this kicks in when we're in Israel, thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations, those heathen nations. There shall not be found among you any that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observation of time, or an enchanter or a witch. So it's all this evil, witchcrafty garbage. Or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. So this is pretty broad, pertaining to people working with the unclean spirits knowingly and willingly. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Jehovah, and because of these abominations, Jehovah Elohim hath driven them out from before thee. Because the people do this, he ran them off their land. Thou shalt be perfect with Jehovah Elohim. They shall all know him from the least to the greatest. He puts the law in their inward parts and their heart. Are you getting an idea? Okay. For these heathens which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners, but as for thee, Jehovah Elohim hath not suffered thee so to do. Jehovah Elohim will raise up unto thee a prophet. And it says Navi in the Hebrew, it's a prophet. From the midst of thee, from inside Israel, from the Israelite people, of thy brethren. So it wouldn't be just some he's speaking here of Yeshua coming out of the tribes of Israel in Israel, okay? Of thy brethren, like unto me, unto him you shall hearken. Well, let everything reproduce after its own kind. Well, Jehovah reproduced after his own kind, him being God, has sons, and they're God. It's not that complicated. According to all that thou desirest of the Lord thy God in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Jehovah Elohim, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I die not. And Jehovah said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken, and I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it should come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. In other words, doom and gloom. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he, meaning Yeshua, shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. Now, the church, as you know, wipes their feet on the many teachings of Yeshua, starting with the Sabbath, changing to Sunday, going to divisions and variants, denominations, and different doctrinal statements, going to telling people the law is dead, and all that. It's ridiculous. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thy heart, how shall we know the word which Jehovah hath spoken? when a prophet speaketh in the name of Jehovah, if the thing follow not nor come to pass, that is the thing which Jehovah hath not spoken, but the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. See, I've gotten people very fed up with me over Acts 10, where Peter sees the sheet come down with the unclean animals, and he says, Peter, eat, and he says, no, I won't eat. And then Yeshua says, what I cleaned is clean, and the people can't accept, there are people that can't accept this. They want to rub Judaism on themselves, and they're not going to eat unclean food. Now, since I realized Acts 10, I have not eaten unclean food. There's no real way to get unclean food in Israel unless you go to an Arab supermarket and buy shrimp or crab or something like that, which I've never done. I just never did it. That's all. I also try to avoid food that's been koshered by the rabbis because they destroy the food. The animal is what was clean and unclean animals and clean animals. So moving along, it did apply to the people that came to faith that were eating unclean food, but the reason they were clean is because Yeshua cleaned the food. The reason they were clean was not that God cleaned them and they could continue to eating unclean food if it was still against the law. So I'm trying to take this another direction. I'll explain again. The people are clean because they were eating food that used to be unclean, but Yeshua made all the food clean. That's what he says. He showed pictures of the unclean animals, not pictures of people. So if this wasn't the case, and he cleaned the people, there would be directives for them not to continue eating unclean food. Yet we read when the apostles sent the letter to the new believers that were the former goyim, those without God, they said don't eat strangled food or the food with the blood in it or sacrificed to idols. They never said don't eat the unclean animals. So they don't have a very good scriptural basis to reject me, but they do. More than one, quite a few reject me over this. Okay? But they can't make a scriptural case for it. Nobody in the New Testament is penalized for eating unclean food. Nowhere in the New Testament. It's only the Old Testament, but they still kick against me. And a lot of them kick against me over this business with the Levites and the Kohanim. When you take it to its fullness, how can the church pastors be the messengers of God? They don't like this. But it's true. Malachi 2. Let's read it. Yes, I'm a Kohanim. If I wasn't a Kohanim, I wouldn't be here teaching you the true gospel, would I? Does that mean that I'm arrogant and cocky? Well, what do you think I should do? Conceal this from you? That would be more evil. That would be evil. And now, O you Kohanim, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give glory unto my name, saith Jehovah of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings, yea, I have cursed them already because you do not lay it to heart. How do I start my broadcast? There's no God like Jehovah. There's no Messiah like Yeshua. Do you hear other people do that? I rest my case. lay it to heart to give glory to my name. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. Now, some would probably like to think this is coming on me because of my interpretation of Acts 10. But the law has changed. We see in the next temple an anointed prince, which was never in the three previous temples. We don't see a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, in the next temple. It's shifted to Judah. The anointed prince comes from the line of David. David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. And Yeshua changed this. You see, they don't, that you can't get around that. What about divorce? I'm picking the very obvious ones. Well, you know, with Moses' law, you gave your wife a get and you got rid of her. Now we're taught it has to be for adultery, or if she runs away from you and moves to Chicago or someplace, well, then you're not under any obligation. But if she's pleased to dwell with you, you can't just kick her out, or vice versa with him and her. So, I mean, there's other instances, quite a few, that things have changed, okay? Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and so, okay, we did that. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. So he made a covenant with Levi. Now, they'll teach you in the church, oh, yeah, he did it, but it's done away with because he canceled the law. Well, did Yeshua say he canceled the law? He said in Matthew 5:17, think not that I came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it, the law and the prophets, but to fulfill it. And then he says, because as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. But the law has been changed. Otherwise, there would be a Kohen Gadol in the next temple. There wouldn't be an anointed prince, and you'd be able to just hand your wife a thing that says divorce and get rid of her. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth, that's Torah Be'emet, I believe. Well, I think it says in truth, but I'd have to check the full text. But it's Torah Emet, but I think it would read Torah Be'emet, the law in truth. What I think was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from lawlessness. Well, have I not done that? For the priest, the Kohanim's lips, I don't think it says lips. No, it does. The priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. Remember, we read Deuteronomy 18. It was given to the Kohanim and their sons. It keeps going. It never stops. It didn't stop. You're supposed to get the law from the mouth of the Kohanim, not the heathens that have another gospel. You know. See, this is foreign to the church world. They don't get this, okay? Because it would destroy their whole game plan to follow the church, not the Bible, because how can you be the messenger of the law when you're not a Kohanim? But you should seek the law at his mouth, the Kohanim. Like it or lump it, that's what you got with me. But you are, and I'm in Israel. Where does God say He'll accept you in Israel? So I had to be in Israel. I had to be a Kohanim and other things. And there you have it. But you are departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. You see, you can't run around and keep imposing the kashrut or the clean food, unclean food on the people after Yeshua did away with it. Well, then God got a problem with you. How could you just throw that thing out? He says, don't call unclean what I cleanse. So he cleansed the people. Well, why and how did he cleanse the people? Because he made the food unclean. If the law on that was still standing, these people wouldn't be clean because they continue to eat unclean food. See, you just got to work through this, and you see it's inescapable. It's wrong to tell the people otherwise. It's wrong. One reason is he didn't want the rabbis running around playing the kosher food game and shaking everybody down for kosher certificates. But you are departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. And by teaching them that the food is still in effect, you would be potentially getting them to stumble. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now, there's still a covenant, and these people break it or corrupt it by rejecting Yeshua as the Messiah would be one great way to do it. And other ways, like saying we follow the Talmud, not the Torah, stuff like that. But that doesn't mean for the Kohanim that has the Holy Spirit, is a believer, and wants to serve Yeshua, that the covenant would no longer apply. That's nonsense. Of course it would apply if the person wants to enter into that covenant with Jehovah and is a believer and a Kohanim. It would apply. It's never been done away with. It's so obvious. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. In other words, they were throwing judgment cases over disputes and stuff. Have we not all one Father? Hath not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother by profaning Have we not all one Father? Hath not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother by profaning the covenant of our fathers? Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem, for Judah hath profaned the holiness of Jehovah, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. Well, he says when you do that, your children are going to serve the strange god, because the wife is going to say, oh, check out my god Zeus, and Jehovah will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacle of Yaakov, and him that offereth an offering unto Jehovah of armies. And this have you done, again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying out. with crying, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receive it with good will at your hand. See, this is what Elijah's going to be doing in Malachi 3, teaching the Levites how to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord, which means that they have to be walking right with Jehovah, and the people have to be walking right with Jehovah. It's not a simple job. It might take some weeks to get this going. It may not be 10 days. But you also may be here with Elijah, eating that falafel, having a good time, and looking forward to the culmination of Zechariah 12:10, and the sun will go dark and the moon will turn to blood, and then boom, you'll see the sign of the Son of Man, Yeshua, appearing in the clouds, seated on the right hand of God the Father. Boom, you got everlasting life. Boom, you got the land back. Boom, you're going to be rich. Boom, you're going to have the land. No mortgage, no payments, no taxes. Well, you have a very small temple tax, but that's it. Now, yet you say, wherefore, because Jehovah hath been witness, I think you'll have the temple tax. Maybe that's done away with too. The law changes. There may not be a temple tax. May not be. When you understand that the non-Israelite born in Yeshua becomes part of Israel and comes here in Ezekiel 47 and becomes incorporated into the tribe of Israel, he traveled with to Israel and gets an equal share of the land with the members of that tribe, and that membership in the tribes pass on to their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so forth, and let them enter New Jerusalem through the gate that's guarded by an angel pertaining to their tribe. Well, the law's changed, hasn't it? So why you kick against the getting rid of the clean and the unclean food? Why you kick against it? Yet you say, wherefore? Because Jehovah hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet she is thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. Now in the past, like when they come out of Egypt, people came with them and stayed with the Israelites, but did they ever get incorporated into the tribe, them and their children and all their offspring, and get a free piece of land along with the tribes? And I don't believe that happened. I'd have to check in detail. I don't remember them getting the land and having it. Maybe they do. But if you're in Yeshua, then you're going to be in Judah, and you know. And did he not make? I don't remember them getting an equal share of the land and being incorporated into Israel, them and all their children and their descendants. I don't think it was that strong. They came with them, and they had to observe the law to stay with them, but I don't think they got the inheritance. And did not he make one, yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. For Jehovah Elohim Yisrael saith that he hateth putting away, for one covereth violence with his garment, saith Jehovah of armies. Therefore take heed to your spirit, that you deal not treacherously. You have wearied Jehovah with your words. Yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When you say, every one that doeth evil is good, and the sight of Jehovah and he delighteth in them? Or where is the God of judgment? Okay. Let me go check the chat here. What about the USS Liberty incident? What the heck? I don't know what happened. It was, what, 50 years ago? You want to keep harping on that? Do you hate Israel? Do you think God's going to restore Israel? Or because of that chip interest, Israel's going to the lake of fire? What do you think? Why do you bring up things that are 50-something years old or more and you don't even know what happened? I don't know how to get louder speakers. I use an iPad. It's got 4 microphones. I do the best I can do. There's no USB port in the iPad. I can't plug in a mic. There's not much I can do. I could ask somebody to pay for me to buy a new iPad with a USB port and plug one in, but I'd hate to have the people spend that kind of money on something like that. I do what I can do. I'm a one-man show, guys. I'm sorry, I do what I can do. Let me go back into my notes. This you're going to like. Oh, you're going to like this. Isaiah 51. This is good. This is good. Verse 21, Isaiah 51, verse 21. Therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Drunken but not with wine is drinking the cup of the wrath of the Lord. The guy that brought up the Liberty ship obviously believes we're drinking the cup of the wrath of the Lord, and so do I. We have. But I don't think so anymore, but probably still we're at the very end of it, maybe. And drunken but not with wine. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, and the Elohim that pleadeth cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thy hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. I keep going, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down that we may go over, and thou hast laid thy body as the ground and as the street to them that went over. Okay. Now, where do we see this happen? Drum roll. Right in Zechariah 12. That's when this is over. Let's go there right now. Isn't this good? Zechariah 12. I think it's cool. Verse 1. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling. To who? To Israel? unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. That's the land we have now. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people, all the heathen of the earth, of the land, gather together against it. That's when it happens. But let's dig deeper. Why not dig deeper? Why not? We can get someplace pretty good, as I will show you. Now we go to Zechariah 13, 8, and 9. This will make the guy with the Liberty Ship thing very happy. But he just knows pieces of prophecy. He doesn't know how to put it all together. Or he wouldn't crack like that. Zechariah 13, 8. And it shall come to, now this is after Zechariah 12, but, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, that's the land of Israel, high Eretz, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. So 2/3 of Israel is going to be dead. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will remember the fire and refine them. Remember, refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. It's so beautiful. Now, the third goes through the fire and it refines them as silver is refined. Now, we'll go to Malachi 3, and I'm putting this together for you guys. This is going to be cool. You're going to love it. Okay. Behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. That's Elijah. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. Now we have Elijah or Elijah. Okay? And Jehovah, okay, and Jehovah whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. But it doesn't say Jehovah. I keep making this mistake. It says Adonai. It's the glory of God of Israel. Shall suddenly come to his temple. So the temple is there before him. Then it goes back and says, even the Malach, or the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. It's back to Elijah. Behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who may stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. See, the really rotten ones that are doing the abominations, working with the unclean spirits and all this other sick stuff, they're going to be gone. As I'm going to show you, 2/3 get cut off, and we'll show you where that is in the scripture in a minute. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. You see, he can't purify the millions of people in Israel because he's one dude, right? So he works with the Levites, and they'll probably take over the synagogues, throw the Talmud out, and get into righteousness in the synagogues, because there's only 3 goat feast holidays a year in Jerusalem. And the people will probably resume going with their families to the synagogue on Shabbat. The families will be within a walking distance, typically less than 1/3 of a mile, which is not a biblical precept, but it's what Israel tended to follow. And they'll have a service, and women will sit one place, the men will sit another, or maybe they'll sit next to each other. I'm not sure. We'll find out. And the kids will probably have some people to, the little kids, small before they were of age outside to play or something, right? So the Levites will then purify the people. They're not going to have the people going around ripping each other in court and lying and fixing cases and ripping off with uneven weights and measures and scams and frauds, and then they're going to go have a lot of money and take a nice animal and get the Levites to sacrifice, and God will be disgusted with this behavior. So they get trained by Elijah, and then they got to pass this on to the people. And you've got to keep reminding them, possibly. But after the everlasting life comes, which is probably not yet for the people, not yet, you've got to train them. And this is going to take time. And you can only imagine the nations of the world simmering and burning and boiling over when there's a temple that came down from heaven, not New Jerusalem, another temple, and Elijah's running around with Apostle John. Oh, you could imagine how well they're going to take that, right? Ooh. Then shall the offering of Judah in Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. So when this happens, the blessings of the law come on Israel. How beautiful that is. And now we're ready for the siege, because we ain't going to have a single casualty. And Elijah and Apostle John burned them up in Zechariah 12:6. Better than a nuke. And then let's read verse 5 of Malachi 3. And I will come near to you to judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers. That's your witches in general. The adulterers, we know what that is. And against the false swearers. They're the ones that go to court and lie. And in business and they lie. And against those that oppress the hireling, the workers in their wages, the widow and the fatherless. They rip them off, steal their land, their cars, whatever, use the lawyers in the courts, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. If they feared him, they wouldn't do these things, would they? For I am Jehovah, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers are you gone away. All right, now he's talking about offerings, and people get upset when I do that. Let's go to Malachi 4 and get this down a little clearer. For behold, the day, that's the day, the Zechariah 12 day, the day, cometh that shall burn as an oven. Well, Zechariah 12:6, it talks about him burning them up, using examples similar to an oven. And all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. This is talking about the 2/3, the bad Israelites. But this happens before Yeshua appears in the clouds, because they don't get the everlasting life. They don't get to be above ground. They become ashes under our feet. When the nations surrounding us get burned up, they're not in Israel. How are we going to have ashes on our feet? They're outside Israel, out on our borders. You got it? It's the bad ones in Israel, the 2/3. It appears to be courtesy of Elijah and Apostle John. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and frolic about like a baby calf from the stall. That's your everlasting life. And that happens after the bad schmucks are dead. Oh, they don't ever get to see Yeshua, do they? No, they don't get to taste what we're going to taste. They don't get to feed on the breasts of Jerusalem. They don't get all this mercy. No, 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 no. They get to hang out in the pit. Oh, yeah, pit dwellers. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. Maybe it happens in the same day. Year of recompenses is payback to the bad ones in Israel that are making Israel a horrible place, and to the enemies. Why not? You could have enemies within and without. Remember you the law of Moses. Oh, that's the same law the churches say is done away with. My servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel with the statutes and the judgments. Behold, I will send you Eliah HaNavi. That's Elijah the prophet. Eliah HaNavi. Ha is the, Navi is prophet. Navim is prophets. Two witnesses can be referred to as Shtaim Navim, two prophets. Now you know Hebrew. Good words. Like the North American Indians said, good words. They're probably lost tribes. I can't imagine they're not. I'm pretty sure they are, but I could be wrong. Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Jehovah. Now that's Gog and Magog, but he comes here because he's going to be working this second 70-year period. He actually starts a little bit before the second 70 begins to get things moving, of course. How can you lose with Elijah and Apostle John and the glory of God of Israel? My gosh. Think about it. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So everybody's going to be in one accord. Pro Yeshua HaMashiach, pro Yehovah, pro two witnesses. They're going to, everything's going to be good. Better than good. Good beyond what you could imagine. Oh, somebody's calling me delusional. How about that? That's really effective. I think I should go and weep. All right. So I think today we got something out of it. If any of you want to ask me questions, you can. My email address is in the description box at the lowest line down. I put it up high on the chat. It's israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. With the terrorism guys, if you're anointed, you're the elect, you don't really have to worry. But I just thought I should tell you that there probably are places to stay away from. It could be a rather disturbing, troubling experience to be around there. Then the FBI and the police are going to keep you and question you forever, and, which you should help them catch the people and give them whatever you could remember. You should. But, it's better to not be there, isn't it? Of course. I'm not saying lock yourself up in your house. I'm just saying use discretion. The big cities, the debaucherous big cities, well, they're all debaucherous, are really going to probably be their target. If they hit Atlanta, they're going to shut down, 1 or 2 million people. If they hit Sheboygan, Wisconsin, or someplace where they shut down 100, 200,000 people, so it doesn't get them too far. Are they going to go after Miami, which is heavily Hispanic? I don't know. Probably not. They might try to hit places where the rich and famous go, like your Malibu, Beverly Hills. I don't know, but expect they're not going to hit little communities at 20,000 or 50,000 or even 150,000. They're going to want to hit cities that are way up there, like, 500,000 or more, or probably 1,000,000 or more. That's what I think they'll go after. Will they go after Oregon and California very left wing? I don't think so. They might. But they're not, at this point, wanting to turn against the left wing. So they're probably going to leave them alone. But New York is left wing. So I don't know. Atlantic City, Las Vegas, those kind of places are likely to get hit. Can they hit Disney World and Universal Studios and Great America and Dollywood and Legoland and Hershey Chocolate Land, or whatever they call it? It depends on the security in the park. It would be a big harvest of death for them if they could do it. But how do they get full automatic rifles into the parks? What about bombs? Well, if you put the bomb made not with metal, if you could manage that, under your clothing taped to your body, you would pass the metal detector and stuff, but then you got to have some metal parts in there, so maybe they could disguise those in the computer or a cell phone, or make it look that way, so when it goes through examination, if they examine it, it doesn't get it. I don't know. But that would give them a fantastic harvest, because they consider it quite pagan, and it truly is. A lot of these places, what do they name the roller coasters? Demon Coaster, Devil Coaster, come on. They name stuff after superheroes. I don't think many of you are going to Disney or Universal right away. I mean, I think it'd probably be a nice idea to not go there. It's an iconic image, and it's normally chock full of foreigners. Who goes a lot to Disney and Universal Studios these days? More so Disney, is foreigners and people that are Florida residents that get a big discount. And they live near the parks, so they buy annual passes. And they get them with the blackout dates, which are pretty cheap. And then hey, we got nothing to do. Let's take the kids to Disney today. And they jump in the car. They live, 2-3 hours away at most. And they drive up there, spend a few hours in the park. They don't have to pay admission. They pay once for the year, and then they go home. They could bring sandwiches, eat at the picnic grounds there, and then go home. Basically spend nothing up there except maybe buy some sodas or bottles of water. They could bring that with themselves also. And you got foreigners that got a lot of money that come over there, so they might not be getting their real good target audience. Killing hundreds of foreigners in Disney would not help their world cause, so they might avoid that. They would probably love to hit a cruise ship if they could, because it's debauchery. Cruise ships are heavily about gluttony, eating food, eating 5-6 times a day. It's about immorality, walking around in a song or stuff like that, and alcoholism and gambling and stuff like that. So they would probably like to hit a cruise ship, but it might not be that easy. not be that easy. Like, they don't go for airports anymore. It's too tough of a target, and the yield isn't that good. Anything pertaining to Trump is going to be a target. And I told you Trump has a conflict of interest with the American people because he's got these golf courses, Trump Tower buildings, hotels all over the world. And the Secret Service is not going to protect his investments around the world. If he goes there, if he goes to his golf course in Scotland, they'll throw 200 agents out there with him or something like that to protect it while he's there. But when he leaves, he leaves. They might leave 2 or 3 agents in his apartment or his living quarters over there to watch over him so nobody puts remote control bombs in or something like that. But by and large, they may start attacking his properties around the world. Because they already attacked his Trump Tower in Las Vegas, he's going to drop on Hamas if they don't return the hostages before January 20th. He's going to come at them with brass knuckles. I don't know what he's going to do. But I imagine if you called a lot of colonels, and majors, and generals from the Pentagon and sat them down for a brainstorming session, a lot of these guys have spilled a lot of blood over America's designated enemies over the years. They'll come up with a pretty good plan. I don't know what they'll do. They'll come up with something. He may talk to organized crime people. He knows they may come up with something even better. I don't know. You know, one thing you could do is take them hostage. Take their family members hostage, if they got any. The problem with that is they'll just declare them to be martyrs that are going to go to paradise and get 70 virgins, you know. If Trump goes to Hamas and says on January 21st or something, if you don't give me those hostages, I'm going to direct my Navy and Air Force to bomb Iran tomorrow. I want those hostages today or tomorrow Iran gets bombed. Hamas will not comply, and then he bombs Iran. Then he calls them up the next day and says, I'm going to bomb Iran again. And by the 3rd or 4th time, Iran's going to tell Hamas, what? You better give them hostages back, you bloody idiots, you know? So there's a way to do it. There always is a way to do it. On the Golden Meir, when we had terrorists like with the Olympics and different places taking hostages, like in Tempe, what Israel did is Golden Meir had the Mossad guys study the family situations of the top terrorists and locate where their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, aunts, or uncles were. And when they made a move with hostages, the Mossad would grab, this was never highly publicized, but the guy that likes to remember the ship from 50 or 60 years ago will like this. But it's true. So they isolated where the families were of the terrorists and they had surveillance on them. And then if a particular terrorist grabbed hostages, they would grab his family, abduct them at gunpoint, put them in a safe house and have them call the terrorist up on the phone and say, hey, they got your mother and me and your sister and your brother, and they tell us they're going to kill us if you kill a single hostage. See, there is another way to skin the cat, and that's one way to do it. I don't know what Trump will do, but he ain't going to be able to go in and start dropping ordnance on Gaza. Not that Israel would say anything. The Israelis would be in the streets singing Hava Nekila while American bombs fell on Gaza. But what's he going to do? Kill 25,000 Hamas operatives? Yes, the hostages will die right along with them, I'm most sure, or almost all the hostages. We do not even know if there are 34 hostages in Gaza. We don't know if there's 4 hostages left alive. They won't tell us. I think one of the stupidest things these hostages did was cause that Cybertruck explosion at the Trump Tower in Las Vegas. Trump is very vindictive, and he will get his pound of flesh out of these people, and they're not going to like it. Imagine Trump speaking to, 5,000 or 6,000 recon Marines, psyching them up and sending them to Gaza. Or I meant the Rangers, rather, the Rangers, You see, the special forces don't go into combat. They go for special missions in small groups. It's your Rangers, which technically are special forces. These are the guys that are infantry, and they hold and they fight. And the Green Berets can do that too, if they're so deployed. But the SEALs, Recon Marines, the air rescue guys in the Air Force, and they're more special ops. They're not into big battles with thousands of soldiers, But we'll see what happens. So please pray for me and my wife, Rivka. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Please, I'm doing well, healing from the morning from my lost dog and friend, Yafa. Please keep the prayers coming that I recover from that and move ahead. And pray for Chief, because I would be just ripped if he went, and he's old. Pray for his health, and pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I hope this helped you today. And if you're believers in Yeshua HaMashiach, I wouldn't worry about the terrorist stuff, but I would go out of my way. In other words, you don't want to provoke evil. So I would stay away from things that likely could be hit. Believe me, when they're calling for an intifada, watch out. I've lived here many years. It's nuts. They're psychopathic killers, like serial killers. So that's what I got. A little bit on the long side today. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for all the prayers and all the emails of condolences. And, I was devastated. I was holding her while she was slipping away. And, it was just horrible for me. It all happened in about 12 hours. Crazy. But thank you for the prayers, really. And like I say, many times I feel I just ride on your prayers. And it works. I know they work. I really do. All right. And you could always send prayer requests in to me, and I put it out for everybody. And I'm out. Thank you.